AdamKokesh is an American activist and talk radio host. He was a corporal in the United States Marine Corps Reserve and is a veteran of the Iraq War. He is an outspoken opponent of the U.S. military intervention in Iraq and has received media attention related to anti-war protest activities. And he's been known to commit random acts of journalism as well. So here's AdamKokesh, everyone.
Is the man here? I hope not. You?
We're here.
Oh no, see, that's the problem. There's a little bit of the man in all of us.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what we're getting past. That's what we're evolving past. But you know, I gotta, as a libertarian, you know, we always have to be academically borderline at the risk of being nerdy. Does that ever happen to libertarians? Being intellectually correct? Ron Paul was not the only politician to mention the Federal Reserve. I think Michelle Bachmann once mentioned it and then even pretended to understand it. So just to be technically correct, often imitated, never duplicated, a politician that doesn't have an interest in the federal government being able to rip everybody off might have the courage to talk about the Federal Reserve System. And now we see the younger generations, I'm 30, I just turned 30, and I'll be telling people that for the next 10 years, but I just turned 30. And people my age and younger, and I don't mean to create an artificial divide here, because there's something about older libertarians too, I'll come back to that, but about people who grew up with the internet. About people my age and younger, the millennial generation. I barely count, you know. I'm almost too old to count myself. But for those of us that grew up with the internet, that have it hardwired, there's a kind of lack of tolerance for the kinds of problems that only exist for lack of information. It just, really, you're gonna suffer because you don't know something? Does not compute. Really. And what happens when you turn 18 in America today? You think kids are stupid? Because really, the government thinks you're stupid. They think everybody's stupid. But the government must really, really, really think kids are stupid. And especially now, especially the way that they're waking up with the internet and learning outside of the government-run propaganda centers masquerading as schools what reality is all about, they're learning that, geez, when I turn 18 and my share of the federal debt, very, very, very conservatively estimated, is $45,000? What's the latest number on that? If you count entitlements, right, you can calculate it and be like, it's actually a few $100,000. If the government stopped spending money, except for entitlements, I would be in debt for the rest of my life. But I mean, you tell that to a kid who's turning 18, who can't find a freaking job. Yeah, your personal share of the federal debt is at least $45,000. What's the reaction to that? It's not my debt. I don't think so. And people, you know what else makes libertarians unique? We ask why. We ask why, and we demand answers. And when it comes to the government, you don't hear a lot of really good answers, do you? And this is what's so special about, I think, the older generation of libertarians today who are seeing this younger generation come up. I want to say, hold on tight, the cavalry is coming. Because for those of you that have gotten it, for those of you that have figured this out, who didn't grow up with the internet, who are a part of this new awareness, you get to be a part of human evolution in a way that no other generation in human history gets to do. To see this awareness that is coming up from the internet, what it is doing fundamentally, if the internet is a tool of information, what it is doing with the Federal Reserve, it is literally rendering it obsolete. Now you would think, well, if it's obsolete, Adam, it has to have a legitimate purpose, right? I mean, you can't render theft obsolete, can you? Can you render murder obsolete? Well, you would hope you wouldn't have to. But in the case of the Fed, it's becoming painfully obvious that by its justifications even, it's two mandates, right? It's going to maintain full employment. How's that working for you? And it's going to ensure price stability. Like, and I have to step back and go, like, really, how gullible and short-sighted do you have to be to accept this scam? How gullible do you have to be like, yep, prices should just stay the same forever? Yeah, wouldn't that be great?
That would be great.
But you know what? As long as human beings are gullible, are victimizable, are capable of being hoodwinked, exploitation will happen. And that's how the Fed got instituted. They said these are the things that the Fed is going to do. It is going to ensure full employment, and it is going to maintain price stability. Now, anybody who knows anything about economics would be like, well, if we maintain full employment, then aren't we all just going to be hunters and gatherers eventually, and we'll all be fully employed, and we'll all be living in a very primitive lifestyle? If we don't allow people to become unemployed and start making cars, we're all going to have horses and buggies still. And you have to have full employment because you don't want any of the horse and buggy manufacturers to go out of business. Couldn't let that happen. I mean, really, is this not painfully obvious? But 100 years ago, people ate it up. At least those that knew enough to even question it, those that were in a position to do it. But back then, when your connection to the world was newspapers, and it was Thomas Jefferson who said, those who read newspapers are less informed than those who read nothing at all. Well, when it was newspapers convincing you that the Federal Reserve was a good idea, yeah, that might be a little information detrimental to your awareness of the world, because if you can stop and think, it's really easy to see the holes in this. Price stability. Now, if you're happy with the status quo, price stability is great. Yeah, let's just keep prices the same indefinitely, no problem. But if you think about it, the natural course of human productivity is to increase productive output,
Yes.
and for prices to come down and quality of life to go up because you can buy more stuff. I mean, if you believe in material happiness, I know we're not going to try to confuse those issues today.
Right.
This is End the Fed, not end unphilosophical thinking. But I think that's part of the movement as well, right? Being able to look at things and asking why objectively and get all the way to the bottom of the rabbit hole. And by the way, the only point at which you reach the bottom of the rabbit hole is when you realize that there is no bottom. So, price stability. If prices are supposed to go down and quality of life is supposed to go up and prices stay the same, where does that excess productivity go? Does nobody stop and ask? I mean, this is one of those basic questions about the gullibility of people. The Federal Reserve is premised on humans' ability to deny reality and to accept arbitrary authority. Mommy, where does money come from? I don't know, shut up and eat your peas. Mommy, why do comic books today cost $4 when they cost a nickel back when they were really good, and the ones that are worth more say less on the cover? Why is that? It's inflation. What's inflation? It's that thing where prices go up. Now eat your peas. Right? But that's ending. That's ending because people are realizing they're asking these fundamental philosophical questions. They're going, what is going on here? And now, at the same time, why? You have to ask, why has the Federal Reserve been able to go on so long? And could it end? Could it come to an end? Or would it go on forever? And for those of you that know my optimism, you know where I stand on that one. But there's a scary possibility here. Because you think about this for a second. Look at the truth buttons that we all have right now in our pockets. We have the entire wealth of human information one click away right there. And the computing power represented by this device used to take an entire building to house and cost billions and billions of dollars. And even with the Federal Reserve maintaining price stability, or at least trying to, the prices of all new technologies radically come down over time. And one of the things that this is allowing to happen is a raising of awareness of people who understand how the Federal Reserve works. And it's not hard to understand unless you've been really propagandized. How many of you have done outreach to younger people and older people about the Federal Reserve issue and notice the difference. And this isn't to say that old people, okay, good, a lot of hands. That's good, because we got people here who are active, who are out spreading the word. Excellent. Because when you have been inundated with the propaganda, when you have been brainwashed by the Federal Reserve, when you really study it, you understand the impact of it so pervasively throughout society, from the top to the bottom, to academics, to how government controls schools and propaganda and the mainstream media. It's all tied to this incredible center of power that is based around the Federal Reserve. And people, like never before, are making this connection. And when I say the cavalry is coming, it's not just the young people. It's everybody who has the courage to think open-mindedly, to ask why for themselves, to seek the truth, and to get the answers. And like never before, people are waking up, and that's why we have an End the Fed movement today. And we're here protesting. We're here protesting the Fed. And they look down at us from these glass towers, from these marble buildings, and they go, oh, all right, you guys can protest all you want as long as you keep paying your taxes. You can protest all you want as long as you keep using the Federal Reserve notes because you're paying the inflation tax. Bernanke even admitted that inflation is a tax. And you are willingly choosing to succumb to that, to pay the inflation tax simply by holding dollars, knowing that every time they create more money in Washington, the dollars in your bank account and your back pocket lose value. And people are putting this together. And what's the result? Well, just like naked body scanners, people are opting out. And that's the power of this movement. Because awareness, as much as any technological development, is rendering the Federal Reserve System obsolete. So it doesn't matter if it's bitcoins or mountain hours or gold and silver or the almighty R-buck. 100 years of the Federal Reserve is more than enough to tolerate this scam. And that is the power of this movement. It is people who are opting out, who are saying, we're not going to pay your inflation tax anymore. We're not going to fund your wars. We're not going to fund your police state. We're not going to fund the violation of our own liberties. We are going to stand up to this system. We are going to stop paying for our own oppression. So 100 years, we are coming on the anniversary of the Federal Reserve System. And I hope that y'all will have an opportunity next year to join me in DC for the 100th anniversary and the Fed rally. And I'm excited to hear that the people who helped this event come together, Mark especially, thank you very much for getting me down here. Really appreciate it, Mark Daniels, and for all the work putting this together on such late notice. We are going to be making this happen. We are going to be getting people from all over the country to Washington, D.C. next year for the 100th anniversary of the Federal Reserve to say, this is enough. It's time to end it. So what are we doing here? What are we doing here? It's more than just raising awareness. You know, did you know the average American commits 3 felonies a day?
Oh!
They've set it up that way. And you know, you commit 4? Just to be safe?
No, that's a very conservative.
That's a conservative estimate, right. It's a minimum of 3 per day. But yeah, like you, I make sure to commit a few extras just in case someone isn't pulling their weight. But they've set it up this way so that anybody is a criminal. Everybody's a criminal. Federal prosecutors joke about this all the time. Oh yeah, you find me the man, I'll find you the crime. It's kind of a sick state of society to live in when anybody can be picked out of a crowd and sentenced under federal law because it's that pervasive. And I think about this like with the mountain hours and with the R-buck. You know, one of the great advantages of local barter currency is not having to report it, not having to pay taxes. But you know what? That's not true. Technically, there's a whole section of the IRS website explaining how you're supposed to report barter transactions. Sorry. It's hard to talk about the IRS and not laugh. But that's what the expectation is.
really sucks.
It really sucks. What we are doing by choosing to opt out here is the most incredible act of civil disobedience, because it's one that they're not even willing to prosecute, because it's one that they're not even willing to mention, because they realize what a threat this movement is to the entire scam. But really, what we are seeing is the advancement of humanity past the point of needing a central authority to give us a medium of exchange. We are evolving past even needing paper money as a physical means of transmitting value. We are evolving past the gullibility of prior generations who fell for the imposition of the scam of the Federal Reserve in the first place. What we are fundamentally doing with the End the Fed movement is moving humanity forward to a new stage of prosperity that has been kept from the entire world by the central banking scheme for the past 100 years. And it's an honor to be a part of this with all of you, moving humanity forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Adam. That's awesome.
The obvious stuff that is making people go, what the fuck is happening here? As libertarians about the sanctity of the individual.
This is disorderly conduct.